Talk to me a little bit about the importance of personalization when you're marketing to a healthcare audience.
Sure. So the reason that you want to have a strong focus on personalization is because, especially within healthcare marketing, their identity is often tied to, their specialty. And so if you're broadly targeting a group, they might feel this doesn't necessarily resonate for me. Now, if you're able to create content that speaks to, say, you're an orthopedic practice and it says orthopedic physicians often find X, that's going to resonate with those people in that group versus that generic content. Furthermore, there's an ability to add statistics and information that are most relevant to that target group, again, versus being general and say, in all practices, this happens, versus in urology practices, this is what we're seeing over here. And it just kind of connects that dot and reinforces the message more.
Yeah. I mean, often in marketing, when you're speaking too broadly, you're talking to everyone, you really end up talking to no one. And that's one of the huge mistakes that I think marketers make when they're doing health tech marketing because they want to speak to so many audiences and not have to try to solve the problem of personalizing at scale. How do you recommend that companies go about personalizing their content at scale?
I mean, when you're looking at trying to scale it up, you can look at issues that are more general and that would apply across practices, create kind of a masterpiece of content, and then just add in little tweaks of language that are speaking to that specific segment. So back to the examples we were using, say we're targeting orthopedics and urology, the masterpiece, you're just replacing words and saying orthopedics versus general physicians or urologists versus general physicians. And those small tweaks allow you to take one piece of content and turn it into 8 different versions, which saves you time and money and ultimately speaks to the person you're trying to reach.
Yeah, and it's a lot better when you're trying to drive awareness to your website and bringing these specific visitors to your site. Another thing that you said is about the importance of using relevant statistics for each audience. I think that, well, in all cases, really in marketing, we should be backing up our recommendations with facts. But when we're speaking to a healthcare audience, because a lot of healthcare or much of the healthcare audience that we're speaking to is scientists.
Yep.
They want to know exactly where data comes from and that it makes sense for each case. Talk to me about why it's so important to kind of back up your claims and your recommendation with data and how to go about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly right that they're scientists by nature and they're researchers by nature, and they went through a lot of education to learn how to do what they do. And so to speak to that language, they're going to look for, okay, if you have a hypothesis that's speaking to you in marketing terms, how are you testing that hypothesis? What evidence do you have that it's actually working before
Mhm.
I go and spend my time on what is generally an opinion, which is what a lot of marketing does. It's like, we feel that this is amazing. And it's saying, yes, this is amazing. Here's the evidence why. And it's just a much stronger case for them to pull through. In addition to that, it gives them leverage as they're working throughout their organization to say, we want to work with this particular brand or company. Here's their data points, and here's exactly what we want to work with them. Here's our projected ROI or whatever the metric happens to be. And so it's helping you sell deeper within the organization as well.
Absolutely. So when we're working with a startup or, a company that's in the earlier stages of their product, what do they do in absence of their own data?
There are definitely tools where you can pay to have somebody conduct that type of research to that
Mhm.
group, and you would give them their target audience and say, these are the questions we want to ask. There is obviously an investment there, but it can help you leapfrog, rather than working for 6 to 9 months trying to get the data on your own, you can
Mhm.
get it within a few weeks and be leveraging it. And then as you go along and you have relationships with customers, you can get their data as well. assuming they agree to it. And then you can
Yes.
leverage that data to cement what you've come up with, through your own independent research as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that while we're working to collect that data, we can use both third party data and we can also use the testimonials and the stories that we have from our customers on our website kind of as placeholders while we're working to get our own data.
Yep, absolutely. And the combination works really well too. Because again, if you're a company and you're saying this is all my information about why I'm amazing, people, of course, you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's all of these third party organizations that are corroborating what you're saying, it's just a much stronger argument to put out into the market.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, last question. I know that marketing is a channel game, really, and a game of deciding which channels are most effective to reach each audience. What have you found, and what do you recommend for the health tech companies and healthcare marketers that are trying to reach those buyers?
Sure. Um, so just to start this, the answer here really depends on the amount of information you already have.
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of email addresses already of prospective customers and you've started those relationships, physicians as a general group do prefer to be communicated with by email. Now, those should be well designed, well written, well thought out, have maybe a little research point in there, but they do prefer email in a lot of cases. If you don't have that information to start out, LinkedIn is one place you can go.
Hmm.
It does depend on the specialties you're targeting because there's a higher or lower density of those users on the site. And it can be relatively cost effective to do lead generation. You also have sites like Doximity, which is billed as like LinkedIn for doctors.
Hmm.
The entry cost is a little bit more to try to get into that game, but you are reaching a highly targeted group of exactly who you want to talk to and get in there as well. Other things we've seen work is, digital ads, but being placed in relevant channels. So if there are websites that your target group is already visiting, trying to get those placements because solely because you're on the site, there's some validity added, is kind of a code around you. So that's another thing. And then there are other things. It really depends on what you're trying to do and how specific you're trying to get. Direct mail can work if you are trying to do like an ABM approach. Paid search can work if you're getting into a group of educated buyers that already kind of know about your solutions. That can work really well, and physicians will respond to it. But I think the general consensus here is it's not one channel.
Yeah.
You have to surround them on multiple channels because these are just physicians in general do not have a lot of time. And so you have this opportunity to speak to them at 5-second increments.
Hmm.
And if it's 5 seconds at a time, you want to have that be as many times as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.